Let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second session of today's virtual trade mission to Mexico. We're very grateful to all of our partners, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, and for this session, UAMI, the Utah Advanced Materials and Manufacturing Initiative, and of course, the consulate here, the Mexican consulate here in Utah, who have been integral partners for all of our programming, not just today, but everything we're doing with Mexico this year. Many of you participated in our first session on manufacturing. We just concluded that a few minutes ago, had a phenomenal conversation about opportunities to nearshore in Mexico and strengthen North American supply chains by building out the sourcing and manufacturing relationship between Utah and Mexico. And of course, right now we're going to be talking, diving a little bit deeper in a tangential topic, looking at aerospace and advanced manufacturing. Very, very grateful to Courtney Ray and Patricia Cortez. Courtney is with the World Trade Center Utah team, and Patricia is working here at the Mexican consulate for all of their work pulling this together, as well as Hannah Hutt, who is the master at all things webinars and events. So thank you all for your work to pull this together. I'm joined on screen with a couple great partners. First off, Chanel Flores is the Deputy Director of UAMI, used to work here at the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Chanel has been with World Trade Center Utah, working with companies at trade shows all around the world. So Chanel, thank you very much for joining us. Big thanks to UAMI for being a partner with us on this event. I'd like to go ahead and give you a minute to welcome everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Miles. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Really excited for this conversation as we're focusing on aerospace and defense and the opportunities that both our companies here in Mexico or here in Utah and the companies in Mexico may be able to work together and partner on. As many of you know, the aerospace and defense industry in Utah is home to several well-known companies, and it includes a variety of specialized core competencies, anything from composites, manufacturing, software, control systems, sophisticated testing, repair and maintenance. Really, it touches all sorts of different aspects within the supply chain. And so we're really excited to be part of this conversation and looking forward to a great discussion around the aerospace industry in Mexico. So thank you, Miles, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Chanel, very much for that. And before we jump into the substance of today's discussion, I'd just like to note, for those that did not participate in the first session, that we are doing these virtual engagements now focused on industries. We'll do some more focus on specific cities in Mexico in June and July, all leading up towards an in-person trade mission. We'll have many companies from Guadalajara coming to Utah in September, and a large delegation led by Governor Spencer Cox to Mexico in October. But these are meant to be working meetings. It's an opportunity for you to get a better insights into opportunities for your business in Mexico. And then after the fact, the follow-up becomes key. And we want people to take action if it's relevant for your company. Courtney Ray, who you will hear from in a little bit, who'll be moderating our Q&A, has been doing a phenomenal job building out these linkages between Utah companies and our partners in Mexico, with the hope that as we do this virtually, we can make significant progress. So by the time our companies from Guadalajara come to Utah, or the companies from Guadalajara come to Utah and our companies from Utah go to Mexico, you will be well on your way of growing your business in Mexico, finding partners, setting up distribution, if that makes sense, or manufacturing, and reaching deals. And we want to make sure this is action focused and beneficial for your company. And so as you listen to the presentation, please use it to inform you, not just for information's sake, but also to help you calibrate what your next steps are going to look like to take advantage of this really significant opportunity that Courtney, Patricia, and Jose, and many others have teed up to hear from Louis today. I'll go ahead and pass it over to our partner in crime, Consul Jose Borjon, who is a phenomenal partner here in the state of Utah. Jose, thank you so much for all of your work on pulling these together and your partnership. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and you can take it from here.
Well, thank you, Miles, and thank you all for joining us today. And Chanel, wonderful to have you do a presentation on Utah's opportunity in the aerospace sector, because today we are really honored to have a top-of-the-line speaker that really understands and will represent adequately the Mexican aerospace industry, because as those who have joined us in the morning, the manufacturing is very dynamic, part of our economy, incredibly sophisticated, and aerospace is the example. And we believe that it can find great partners here in Utah. So allow me to introduce our speaker. We're honored to have Luis Liscano, who is the CEO and president of the Mexican Federation of Aerospace Industry. Mr. Liscano has more than 25 years of experience in industry development from different perspectives, both from government positions as well as private companies. Mr. Liscano was in charge of foreign direct investment attraction for the northern state of Chihuahua, and there he designed and implemented the aerospace industry of that state to attract companies like Cessna, Honeywell, Beechcraft, and Bell Helicopter, just to mention a few. So he has that ground experience of, and his background is also relevant because of his area of work in economic development, automotive, aerospace, industrial real estate. I mean, Mr. Liscano holds an industrial engineering degree from the Instituto Tecnológico y de Estudios Superiores de Monterrey, or MIT, I call it. But we are really, really honored to have Mr. Liscano because he is the person that at a national level understands our industry, represents our industry with government and private sector, and will help you understand and guide your opportunities because his association obviously has a structure and partnership, great people who will help you develop. So after his presentation, we'll be honored to have Courtney Ray, our Global Business Director of World Trade Center, guide the conversation, and feel free to send all your questions. And if they're not at that time addressed, we will get back to you through World Trade Center, through the consulate, and of course, through the Mexican Aerospace Industry Association. So Luis, muy bienvenido. Muchas gracias por estar aquí. Buenos días. Thank you all.
Thank you, Consul Borjon. It is certainly, well, thank you very much for the very kind and very nice introduction. And it's a pleasure, both a pleasure and an honor to be here along with the Utah World Trade Center. To talk a little bit about what's happening in Mexico right now in regards to aerospace industry. As you know, aerospace industry is a global industry, and you know, many things are happening right now as we speak. So if you let me just share my screen so I can share a little bit of my. Let me see. I don't know if you can see that right now.
Yes, you can now. Thank you.
It's in full screen, right? Good. Okay. Very good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about first about the organization. I happen to be the president and CEO of the Mexican Federation of Aerospace Industry, which is something very similar to what the AIA in the United States is. Just to for you for those acquainted with the Aerospace Industry Association in the United States, you know, we're basically their sister or their similar organization here in Mexico. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. You know, we basically gather the aerospace industry companies. We are private. We're not part of any government. We're a nonprofit organization. We established in 2007. We're a fairly young organization as this industry, as an industry trend, is new in Mexico. We have over 120 member companies. And, you know, basically we're the private counterpart of Mexico federal government in terms of, because we have a nationwide scope. Here are some of our members. Just you may recognize some of the logos in there. Some of the other ones that you may not recognize are as important as well, because they conform actually the supply chain in Mexico for the aerospace industry. Okay, we also collaborate with some other international organizations, along with the United States is very important, the Aerospace Industry Association, but we also formal collaboration with the BDLI in Germany, United Kingdom, and GIFAS in France, and some other companies, AAC in Canada, and we actually are part of the international coordinating of aerospace industry associations, which actually interacts with mainly with ICAO in order to put the point of view from the industry for aviation regulations or aeronautic regulations. We have 9 commissions. We operate in different areas, from competitiveness, promotion, human transformation, technical commission, supply chain development commission, space, and MRO. So we are basically organized in different areas, if I may say, of activities. Okay, so basically that's our organization, and I'm very work in this organization. I have been 7 years, so it is very interesting, and it is very fulfilling for me as a professional. Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about Mexico's aerospace industry, and we're going to talk two stories. Okay. We're going to have first the pre-COVID story, which is how we were, how it was in terms of our development. As I was telling you, we have a fairly young industry in the develop. So basically, we're gonna try to put things in a nutshell. What's the aerospace industry in Mexico? What's the profile of the aerospace industry in Mexico? As I told you, it's been a new industry in Mexico, even though, we got some people that said, and many people don't know about this, but did you know that Mexico has a very interesting history in the aviation storyboard since the beginning? For example, in 1913, at the beginning of the 20th century, almost half of the wood propellers that were used around the world were built in Mexico. There was this engineer called Ingeniero Villasana, who actually built wooden propellers for many companies around the world. Many people don't know that the first head of state that actually flew in an aircraft was the Mexican President Madero, at around 1912 or 1913. So, Mexico has been there for many times, but as an industry trend, we really started around the year 2000. We have been doing some MRO stuff and things like that, but as an industry trend, we have information from the Exports Authority, from the Ministry of Economy in Mexico, from 2004. And since then, in a matter of 15 years up until 2019, we got a steady growth of 14% average per year. It is mainly in the civil and commercial arena. We have somewhere around 368 industrial facilities, mainly dedicated to manufacturing, but not exclusively. We have some dedicating to maintenance, repair, and overhaul, and some other ones to design and engineering. And in 2019, we have somewhere around close to $10 billion of exports, 60,000 direct jobs. And, we have managed to basically build a manufacturing platform in around 10 years. So, as you know, what was the expectation for when this Corona thing virus showed up was uncertain, but we are gonna see some other things. We're gonna talk a little bit about the second part of my story. Some global aerospace companies present in Mexico. I'm not gonna go in detail, but you can see that there are many companies from basically all over the world, very important companies, and you may see that some interesting facts later about these companies. For example, some of the products and services and components that are built in Mexico. We build from engines, propulsion systems, aerostructures, and sheet metal. Landing systems components. For example, many people don't know that all the doors of the Boeing 787, the Dreamliner, all the doors, passenger doors of that aircraft are built in Mexico. We have landing system components for the A320 and the A350 for Airbus. And interiors, all the Embraer E2, which is the latest regional jet from Embraer, which is a Brazilian company, are built in Mexico as well. So, we got a lot of products and services that are being built and sometimes not only built, but designed in Mexico by a myriad of companies. And this is a very particular story because aerospace industry is definitely a global industry. If you see a plane, from Boeing or Airbus, actually you can see some sort of a manufacturing United Nations. For example, landing gears can be made in France. Some sections of the fuselage can be built in Japan or Malaysia. Some parts of the engines may be built in Eastern Europe. Some other parts, of avionics can be built in the United States. Some other parts can be built in Canada. So basically, it's the supply chain for an aircraft, especially for a commercial aircraft. It's a very complex supply chain. Just to give you an idea, I was involved also in the automotive industry. In the automotive industry, one single car has somewhere around 4,500 to 6,000 parts number, different part number. A plane, an aircraft like the Dreamliner, can have somewhere around 5 million different part numbers. And the volumes make also the difference because, volumes for, let's say, the 737 or the A320, which are the most popular commercial planes, range around 60 per month, whereas a car can have thousands of cars manufactured in the same month. So it's very different. It's very difficult. The supply chain in the aerospace industry is global and is extremely complex. Well, continuing with Mexico, this is the geographic distribution of the companies. You can see there are 5 states. Baja California with 97 companies, Sonora with 58, Chihuahua 52, Nuevo León with 33, and Querétaro with 50. Those 5 areas is where the industry concentrates. The other day, there was a reporter that asked me which region was the most important in regards of aerospace industry. And I say, it depends on what your criterion of importance is. For example, in number of companies, you may see that Baja California has many companies, but those companies tend to be smaller companies. The size of employees or direct employees or OEMs present, then Chihuahua comes to place. Then if you talk about revenue or exports, then Querétaro is the one who's had the higher revenue or exports. So every single region of those 5 that we're pointing out, and some other ones as well that are in developing, has their own particular situation, and it all depends on what you're looking for in regards of market to select, to concentrate on a certain region. Okay, then this graph I really like. You can see that in 2004, these are official numbers from the Ministry of Economy in Mexico, we used to export 1.3 billion, and we used to import $1 billion. Usually the majority of our imports come from, guess where? From the United States. So basically what you see is that you see this trend up until 2019, that we end up with $9.7 billion. That is important for us, but from a foreign company point of view, you should see the green bar, which actually goes from $1 billion of import in 2004 to almost $8 billion of imports in 2019. So basically, our market, or the market available for companies, grew 8 times. This is 4.3 annual average annual exports growth. Well, this story was very nice. Now let's see what's going on when somebody told us that in 2019 there was basically two things that were some sort of challenges in the aerospace, in the global aerospace industry. The first one, and you may heard about it in the news, was the 737 MAX crisis or situation. That aeronautical authorities decided to put those aircrafts back on the ground in order to resolve a problem, because there was two accidents, unfortunate accidents with the 737 MAX, and we expected that that was going to impact our industry. The second one was some sort of an outbreak that was being shown in Wuhan in China, but it was something that may be impacting the Chinese aircraft market, but it was like that. We later found out that outbreak in China was not localized there, and certainly impact the whole world, and is impacting right now the whole world. And you can see the world passenger air traffic in April of 2020 of last year, how was on a certain range, and then all of a sudden we end up with close to 10% of the volume. It's very difficult for companies to live with 10% of sales. So that was basically the case of the aviation industry, of the our transportation industry. Of course, there was significant reduction in production from the major manufacturers like Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, and there was basically decreased requirements from 40 to even 75%, depending on the aircraft model. So it was very, very difficult times. Now when this started, we made 3 scenarios from 45% to 25% decrease in our exports. We've had finally in 2020 found out that we had minus 31%, and of course this is a forecast that we have. You know, we were in minus 31%, which is very it was very hard, but you know, there were countries and manufacturers that experienced a 50% or even 60% decrease, depending on their things. But one good thing is that we expect, when all these get solved, and we certainly are very following very closely the news on how these things is developed. You know, we're referring about vaccines and everything, because that's gonna allow the world to continue traveling and continue doing business. We know that the world has changed, and business is not gonna be business as usual than what we have in 2019. But we foresee that you know, people will go back to travel eventually, and we are expecting a recovery between 2022 and 2023 to the levels of 2019. Just a quick reflection, you know, crisis in Chinese, by the way, you can you use 2 pictograms to depict the word crisis in Chinese. One pictogram that means danger, and the other picture that means opportunity. We know all the dangers that these crises have brought to the world, but we need to focus also on the opportunities. And of course, as every situation has, everything has an opportunity. And we're talking about from not only from the Mexico's point of view, but from North America point of view, from an economic bloc that is actually consolidated by USMCA. The first crisis opportunity is that there's still a potential close to $5 billion of aerospace systems and parts that can be produced in Mexico or in the in the USMCA area for the Mexico market. There's a big potential. There is a big demand. The big OEMs and tier ones in the industry are re-engineering and revamping their supply chain structures. And basically what they are doing, which is the second item there, is that they're trying to lower the high dependency they have from Asia, especially from China. And they are looking to develop more reliable, more cost-effective supply sources to lower the risk and lower the cost. For example, Europe and Airbus, being a leader in this, and some other big tier ones, are aligning with Northern Africa, especially Morocco and Eastern Europe, and of course North America, and we're talking about the United States and Canada, with Mexico and Latin America. And we see USMCA playing a big role in there. Also, there's a sector diversification. Companies that are serving specific industries are diversifying and integrating new high-tech industry sectors. Like, for example, there's a big technology change in automotive ahead. To hybrid or even electric cars. What's going to happen is that the infrastructure, foundries and material treatments and metal machining operations that were used to build an internal combustion engine are still going to be there, but can be used in some other areas like aerospace, for example. And also there are new segments and opportunities in some other different market segments in aerospace. For example, Mexico has been mainly in commercial and civil markets, but there's a big defense market that can also be worked for Mexico and from Mexico. Of course, space is another big area. As a matter of fact, we just signed a collaboration agreement with the Mexican Space Agency to start developing aerospace industry, with their needs and things like that that are actually progressing things. So there are many opportunities that are arising, and that the only thing is that we need to be prepared to catch those opportunities and be there, be on the spot. As we say here in Mexico, be where the tortillas are hot, so you can actually eat the taco the right proper way. Finally, and to finish my presentation, I just want to end up with a thought from one of the biggest industrialist of the 28th century, which happens to be Henry Ford. And he used to say that when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. So with this, I certainly would like to thank you. And, I'm more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have, or any doubts or comments, concerns, whatever you have, I will be happy to try to answer that in the best proper way.
Thank you so much, Luis. That was a great presentation. Hopefully gave our Utah companies some good information to chew on. And so now we'll head into Q&A. So I wanted to talk to you about tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers. There's obviously been a huge space, and there's been huge growth in aerospace despite the temporary setbacks with COVID. Yes. But from what I understand, tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers are still lacking in Mexico, and that 97% of the aerospace parts are imported even after 5 decades of aerospace. Large OEMs are unable to find specialized certified products, fully certified local suppliers with advanced capabilities, and they're looking for parts from foreign suppliers. And we have so many excellent suppliers of aerospace parts in Utah, and we'd love to take advantage of that. So my first question is, how can we get a list of the supplies that are needed?
Well, that's a very, very good question. As a matter of fact, we in FEMIA, in the organization, have a supply chain development program. We have been, we're working right now with 46 companies that are that are buying or trying to buy things in Mexico. As you know, there are some of these companies may have some compromises to develop things in certain countries. That's how the industry works. But basically, we have been locating companies that would like to have North American suppliers, but especially more in Mexico. They recognize that there is not only a lower risk than having this from Asia, for example, than having this from Mexico. And they also recognize that the cost involved in doing so is also cost effective, and we're competitive. The only thing is that since this is a very specialized industry, there are some things that we lack of. There are some technologies and there are some skills that Mexican companies are lack of. And then there's a big opportunity for U.S. companies to partner with Mexican companies in order to fulfill these requirements from the buyers. And these buyers comes in different sizes and shapes, but mainly are for tier one companies, no? Mainly the big companies that are attached to the big OEMs. And you're right, the tier two and tier three is a big gap that we have. You mentioned that 50 years ago, I wish that they were 50 years ago, there was presence of companies since 40 or 50 years. 50 years I would doubt, but 40 years, yes. But as an industrial trend, it started developing since around the year 2000, where some of the OEMs, like for example, Bombardier, Airbus, and some other OEMs started looking at Mexico as a potential manufacturing site, and they established their operations here. So basically, that's a big opportunity for companies that would like to start doing business in Mexico.
So that was actually the second part of my question, which is how do we, as there's a procurement process, I'm assuming, maybe the Mexican government has contracts out with some of these bigger OEMs, and then they go to parts providers and suppliers. How do they know when, Airbus or whomever is looking for various supplies? Where do they go for that list? Is there some centralized database that says, here's an RFP and we're looking for the following parts? How do they know?
Yes,
when?
Yes. So in this supply chain development program, we work with buyers in order to get what is being needed, and then work with the potential suppliers up until they got the RFQs and even getting the contracts, So basically, that's what we do on that program. So yes, we have identified what is being needed and what things are being needed. The most needed parts are what is related with the foundry parts, like castings, sand casting, investment castings, those kind of things are very highly demanded, and there are things that can be supplied from North America to compete with other areas. In that area, specifically in castings, there's a lot of things that come from Far East and even Turkey, for example.
And so, sorry, just to follow up with that. So would they email you to have access to that list, or FEMIA? How do they access that? Is there like a main website?
Yeah, basically we can provide. Usually, what we do is that we work with our member companies to work in develop. But we can provide what is being demanded, and we can work if there's an interest. We can work directly and try to see how they can develop their market and ultimately work in Mexico. What we also look is to for those companies to expand, and as you can imagine, because this is always a big there's a lot of fuss about this. In this case, we're talking about the work, not the work that is being performed in the United States. We're talking about the work that is performed outside our area, which is the one that we are actually working with these companies to relocate to our area, which is the USMCA region.
Great. I wanted to mention to the companies, for those of you on the manufacturing call, there's a slight nuance to this, but I do want to just mention this. So I had the opportunity of speaking with Ambassador Tomas Cibaja, which is, he's in charge of the aerospace cluster in Mexico. So two things.
In Baja. He's in charge of the cluster in Baja California. Actually, the only organization that has a nationwide scope is FEMIA.
Okay, great. Oh, good to know. Okay, Hannah, if you could please put that little blurb that I mentioned to you on the chat screen. So if you all could look down there at the bottom, you'll see he had given me something that I thought was really helpful. If you go to the website there and then click on About Us, and you'll scroll down until you see an org chart and a list of board of directors of about 50 names. Now, unfortunately, they're in Spanish. He's going to work on changing those to English, but if any of you have a Spanish-speaking friend or can get by with whatever Spanish you have, it will give you the names of the people who specialize in, very specific things within the aerospace industry. And hopefully they have that in FEMIA as well.
We do. We do have that. As a matter of fact, we have that for the whole country.
Oh, perfect. If you can maybe put that in our chat as well, where they can go for that, that would be great. Or just even if is it FEMIA.org?
Yeah. No, it's actually FEMIA.com.mx. But if you want, we can, because this is, you cannot, look at a general. You have to take a case by case. So every single company has a different thing. So we really, the devil is in the details. We cannot go to a general thing, okay? Yes. Especially in aerospace, we cannot generalize. So if you are interested in a certain thing, we can do detailed information, but we have to go work on a one-on-one basis.
Wonderful. So we can get that address from Luis and send that out to you with the follow-up, and so you can get the FEMIA address as well, unless Luis is able to post it on here too.
Yeah, actually you can it's femia.com.mx, but you can if you want, I can share my screen again and put my my address. You can direct there, and I can direct you to our supply chain program manager, so that actually you can work directly with him and see how things can develop in this. Okay, that's
great. Yeah, and someone posted something over in the chat, so I think then it allows you to get to the specific people where you can say, this is my product, who do you know on the buyer side? And then that's a great way to follow up. I know that someone in the chat room had also written, how do we then sort of push our product and say, this is what we're interested in telling the buyers about in Mexico, as opposed to waiting for them to tell us what they're interested in as well. So I think that would be a way to sort of send a blast, if you will, to the people who could help you on the Mexican side. Is that correct, Luis?
Yes.
Okay, great. So please take note of that address as well. And then also one of the things I'd mentioned this morning on the manufacturing side is Tomas Cibaja had mentioned that they were doing an event where they're doing a matchmaking event where they will have the buyers, major buyers from Mexico, and they're going to connect them with California companies. We are going to do the same thing with them for Utah companies, probably in June, probably also through the STEP program for those of you who are eligible for STEP to help pay for that. It would be a small fee, probably like $1,000 per company. But what you'll do is fill out a one-pager of the supplies that you're interested in sharing with Mexican buyers, and they will do the same things. And then there'll be a matching process. And if you're interested in each other, there'll be a 15-minute sort of meet and greet. And if it seems like there's a match beyond that, there'll be more substantive conversations where you can go from there and set up meetings to hopefully do business from there. So watch for that invitation. We will definitely be taking them up on their invitation to do that for Utah companies, which we're really excited.
Yes, just to add a little bit on that, I certainly would like to extend an invitation for FAMEX, the Mexican Aerospace Industry Fair, which is basically be held on September 29th of this year. Okay, this has been organized by the Mexican Air Force, and is this show. You know, if you really want to know about Mexican aerospace industry, Mexican buyers, all the people, all the movers and shakers of the industry are going to be usually attend this show. Okay, this show is the most important aerospace show in Latin America.
That's great. Thank you.
If you want, let me try to post their website as well.
That would be great.
You can have it's, and actually it has an English. Let me try to put it in the chat right now to everybody. Okay, that's it. And you know, actually, you can have, you know, that's where everybody meets. And you know, one thing, you know, we have been working 5 years on this supply chain development program. And one thing that we thought it was going to be easier when we started is that, you know, yeah, we do a supplier day, and you know, we get to know the vendors with the buyers, and then, you know, all of a sudden they end up with an interest or even with an RFQ. Let me tell you something, in this industry, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. You know, that's why we decided to go on a one-on-one basis, try to see what's really in it for them. Things are, you know, I used to build build convertibles for Chrysler back in the 80s and the 90s. Okay, and I know a little bit about the automotive industry. It seems that there's many differences, many similarities between automotive and aerospace, but there are also huge differences that make things happen. It's like if somebody knows how to dance salsa, and all of a sudden somebody else asks this person that knows how to dance salsa to dance tango. It's a different ballgame. So you really have to be more, and it's a more conservative industry. You know, there are big differences. So we found out that you know, industry days, if you raise an expectation of having a contract out of an industry day, you know, that's not quite accurate. So you need to continue working, meet the guys, and then continue working, and sometimes it can take you know, many months or even 1 or 2 years. You know?
Great. Well, Luis, thank you for these great resources, and to know that you're on the national level. It sounds like for everyone on the call, this is going to be your best resource for really finding out where to go on a national level for buyers and letting them know what you're doing with suppliers. Is that right, Luis, in terms of understanding that? Great. Perfect.
That's correct.
Okay. So for those of you who are aware of Steve Rogers, who's involved with SAMPI in Mexico, he gave some great advice, and he said that that urban or advanced air mobilities, which is UAM and AAM, I just learned about that, is a huge opportunity. They're basically air taxis, which you all probably know, and I just learned about. And apparently there are about 230 companies internationally that are competing in this space, but we actually have one on the phone, which I looked at in our list. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Mobadine. And it's very exciting. And so this is a huge opportunity. We have so many smart engineers down in Mexico that are starting to go into this space. And he had mentioned that they're gobbling up a lot of the good aerospace talent that's really helping in this. And so it becomes it's going to be better pricing probably to do it in Mexico with really good talent. And so, Luis, if you can maybe comment on this opportunity and who are the players in Mexico that these companies should speak with if they're interested in, that would be.
Well, as a matter of fact, you know, and I mentioned that in my presentation, that is, you know, there are many things that are moving real fast, and you know, and this is one of them. You know, what they have the aerial taxis and things like that. There are many companies that are actually emerging from different areas. You know, UAVs, personal UAVs, personal aviation, space. Now there's a big boom of new space, talking about, for example, the low Earth orbit satellites, which actually puts a different perspective on the space. You know, so there are many things that are rising. One of them is that we're not aware right now of companies that may have a personal taxi, but for example, we have companies in personal aviation. You know, there's a company called Icon Aircraft that is building a very affordable two-seater passenger aircraft out of Mexicano, out of Tijuana, that actually can you know, can have. But you know, this kind of the market is right now so dynamic that it's very difficult to cope up with all the opportunities that are arising.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Along those lines, someone had asked, what do you expect the impacts of distributed additive manufacturing to be on aerospace, especially for the personal aerial mobility?
I think the impacts will be and are actually, you know, tremendous. You know, additive manufacturing and 3D printing will be very. It is certainly a trend. There are things that are not only being replaced but designed to be produced in additive manufacturing of new aircraft. So you know, that is definitely a trend, and you know, that is a yes, you know, of course.
Great. I wanted to talk about armor. We have exceptional armor here in Utah through our advanced manufacturing companies, both for personal use and for armed vehicles. From what I'm understanding, a lot of people in Mexico, especially for private use, are taking Jeep Cherokees and armoring them for personal safety. And it uses up to 1,800 pounds of steel armor per vehicle, which means they have to really beef up the whole car. And it sounds like they could probably use some of our armored vehicle solutions and sometimes the personal armor as well. Can you maybe talk about your perspective on that and who we should be selling our armor and armed vehicles to?
Yes, well, usually what this kind of things goes into direction. There are some companies, and you know, I'm talking about automotive. I'm going into automotive area that provide armor vehicles here in Mexico. But you know, my best bet will be also the military, and you know, this goes along with the new changes that are coming. The changes are not only coming in the manufacturing techniques, but also in new materials and all that, those kind of things. For example, there's along with 3D printing, there's a lot of manufacturing for carbon fiber or composite materials. So, you know, the technology is moving extremely fast at these times, and and yes, there are some things that can be used, or new applications that can be used in this kind of industry.
Great. But you think that the military might be open to some sort of relationship potentially with some of our companies?
Oh, of course, and I strongly recommend that you consider attending FEMIA, because the military will be there. Actually, it's an event organized by the Mexican military.
That's great. Thank you. So I wanted to talk about resin transfer molding. So from what I've gathered, several of the Mexicali operations were losing workers because there were so many fumes. So they switched to RTM, or the resin transfer molding. We have a lot of companies that focus on that in Utah. So like Radius Engineering, NTech, and I'm just wondering, are those sort of products of interest to some of your manufacturing plants in Mexico? And if so, how can we find which plants would use this?
Yes, of course, there's a lot of service and companies that service the actual industries that are already installed in the aerospace industry to serve them in Mexico. So yes, there, we have a directory of 368 plants scattered all over Mexico that serve in different places. But if I tell you, it's very different if a plant that may manufacture avionics, that a plant that manufacture machine parts or composite parts for aerostructure. It is that's why I tell you that in this case there are no shortcuts. You have to be on a one-on-one basis.
Great, that's helpful. Thank you. So actually, Miles, do you want to wrap up now? It's we've got just a couple more minutes, so I'll send it over to you. Luis, thank you so much for your time today. We are so grateful, and I know that we're so lucky to have someone so senior in Mexico that can be a resource for our companies, and really, really grateful for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you to the World Trade Center of Utah and Mexican Consulate in Salt Lake, Consul Borjon, and we are here to see how can we develop our industry around. So we will be glad to help you in any way possible.
Great, thank you. I know Miles had wanted me to send it back over to him. Miles, are you there? Well, don't know what happened to Miles, but he's usually there. Something must have come up. But Luis, we're so grateful to you, and of course grateful to Patricia and Jose for setting this up and for the wonderful introduction to such a great resource for our companies. And of course, all of you who want to reach out, I know Luis has said he'd be a great resource, and also through FEMIA, and please CC me so that I can help you with any follow-up and know when to send you to Patricia and Jose as well. And thank you, Luis, for making yourself so available to us. We're so grateful. And Chanel, of course, for a wonderful introduction and reminding us of all the great resources we have in our Utah companies.
Thank you, Courtney. And
thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.